All right, and we are live. Welcome to the BrainDrive weekly dev call update live stream. Our mission here at BrainDrive is to build a superior user-owned alternative to big tech AI systems. I'm Dave Waring, and I handle the business operations side here at BrainDrive.
And I'm Dave Jones, and I handle the technical operations side here at BrainDrive.
BrainDrive is an MIT licensed user-owned AI platform that I'll share my screen and show you briefly before we jump in the call for anyone who's new. It runs downloads with one click onto Mac or Windows or runs in Docker for Linux users. And it's built to run locally on your computer, and it allows you three different or offers you three different model provider choices. You can run local models with Olama. You can access over 400 cloud-based AI models from OpenRouter, or if you want the easy buttons, you can add credits and go. I need to up my credits here and use the BrainDrive model, which is the model that we choose for you based on the best combination of price and performance, because we really believe the model is more like electricity. It's not the most important part of a local AI system. The most important part of the local AI system is your memory, all the context that the system builds up so it can become an effective partner with you in helping you define and reach your goals. So all of your interface lives on your machine, and all of the context, all of your memory lives on your machine and under your complete ownership and control. And BrainDrive is designed to help you reach those goals by our interview to align spec and build plan process. So you do an interview to define what your goals are for finance, and the AI interviews you to fill out this spec. Then it works with you to create a plan for how you're going to execute on those goals. And then you can come back in and check in on progress and update on your success as you go. And this is the same exact process we use to build BrainDrive itself. So it works for very sophisticated projects. And my daughter, who's 10 years old, is starting a little art business, and it works for her as well. So it's a simple process, but it's very powerful when you get that flywheel spinning, so that memory and that context and the AI, the work that you're doing with the AI, compounds for you. And that's what it's all about here at BrainDrive. So normally I would kick it over to Dave to update on all of our development progress from last week. But that development progress, which he will talk
Yeah,
about, is basically a big picture shift that we're making now that we're moving to phase three of our roadmap.
yeah,
So, phase one of our roadmap is yeah, it brought up the wrong roadmap. I was gonna GitHub is down this
yeah.
morning, so I can't bring up the roadmap, but it is on our GitHub public roadmap, and it's divided up into five phases. Let's see how good my memory is. Phase one is own. And phase two is that's all. Phase one is all the things you need to do so your AI system remains under your complete ownership and control. Phase two is benefit, and that's that align, plan, and execute process that I showed you there, and making sure that BrainDrive works with you to help you define and reach your goals. We're finished with those two phases, or at least the foundation for them. And we're now building out phase three, which is connect. This is your BrainDrive doing things for you and eventually acting in the world on your behalf. So we like to talk about this as when you're talking to your BrainDrive to come up with your plan and goals and checking in, that's your brain. And the connect portion is the hands of the
Yes.
system. And then the last two phases, which we'll move on to after that, are the earn, being able to earn money with your BrainDrive off of all the great things that you've built on top of it, because it's under your ownership and control. So you receive the value instead of giving it all away to a chat GPT. And then finally, decentralize, so we can build out a decentralized ecosystem of user-owned AI systems. So we're moving on to that connect phase, and giving BrainDrive hands. And so Dave and I have been talking a lot about getting the foundation together for that, and he's been working on the first application, we're going to call it.
Yep.
And that is building a resume off for your career page. And eventually that's going to turn into being able to do searches on the internet to identify good job opportunities and then customize that resume and put together a custom cover letter to help you apply for and land a job. So this is
Yeah.
that individual empowerment. And after a lot of back and forth in terms of looking at that, we have now, if I can bring it up here, we came up with this app platform overview document, which I'm bringing up in Markdown here since GitHub is down. But basically, this is the sort of big picture
Yep.
overview of how the app platform is going to work. And there's two different layers to this. There's the personal AI architecture, which is an extension of the architecture that we've been building BrainDrive on, the brain part of BrainDrive. And it's our philosophy for how to put together personal AI systems that remain under your complete ownership and control and that are constructed around your memory as the one place that you're locked into, because that's what makes the AI system personal to you, and avoiding lock-in in all other parts of the system. And this is the personal AI architecture. It's at personalaiarchitecture.org, something anyone can use to build a personal AI system that meets those requirements, that is designed to empower the individual and remain under the individual's ownership and control. And then BrainDrive is the implementation of that architecture where we choose the defaults while adhering to that architecture, like what's the interface scripting language that we want to use and those types of things. So we need to now do the same thing now that BrainDrive is growing hands. We need to extend the personal AI architecture so that we remain true to the mission or the vision of the personal AI architecture, which is so that your system remains under your complete ownership and control. And then we need to document how we're going to build out the BrainDrive implementation of that. So there's 8 documents that we've come up with, and I thought a good use of time in this call, since Dave's been doing a lot of work on this, is just to kind of take us through what each of these documents are from a high level, and then next week we'll show you the first app that is built on this
Yep.
new architecture and implementation.
Okay, so if you just want to keep yours up, or I can show mine, whichever is easier. But I figure since you have yours up right
Yep.
now, we'll talk about the division of work. As Dave said, the PA layer, and then the brain drive layer. The PA layer, if you go to it, there is no code. It is in English, all of it, and that's the reason for that is because it's not telling people exactly this is how you code something, but rather this is how something is built. And then that's where Dave said the brain drive is an implementation of it, because this is our interpretation of how we would use the architecture to create an app that we have envisioned for that people would enjoy, would find useful. And so we have simply used the architecture to build our own app. And we're at a point now, when we were doing the PAA, we knew we would get to this point, but for that moment, we were like, okay, we're just going to stop here and not talk about apps yet until we actually get to there and start building one. And then we know what information is going to be needed in there for what to people to read and go, okay, I can do this way, I can do this that way, and still be adherent to the architecture itself. And that's where we're at right now. So let's go on to, we'll go to the first part, the contracts. BrainDrive and PA have a similar thing. The PAA will get into the English version of what is a contract, what does it look like, what information actually needs to be brought forth, but it doesn't give you the code to do it, and that's intentional. This
Yeah,
is
and
a
one high level thing here, Dave, you correct
Yeah.
me if I'm wrong, but basically there's kind of 3 concepts that all these documents fit into, which is there's going to be an app which does things.
Yep.
There's going to be a host which you use to communicate with that app.
Yep.
And then there is the app contract, which is how these two things speak with each other.
Correct.
And so, we need to build that out, but also we need to do it in a way where we're not locking people into one of those components,
Yep.
right? And
Exactly.
getting away from the philosophy of the personal AI architecture. So the first thing is, how do these things communicate? And why is that important? Why is that number one, or is that just it doesn't
Well,
need to be
because
number one? Or
you in order to get it all in existence, you have to be semi-psychic. So the first thing you have to figure out is, okay, I know I have BrainDrive because that's what we developed. So we knew we were starting.
that's our host.
Yeah, that's our host. We knew we wanted to build an app and we envisioned the first app so we could figure out what is this app going to do, because from there we can start extrapolating the communication aspect. And then when we have the communication aspect, then it's simply plugging it into, okay, this is the hand and how it actually works in BrainDrive. And then we're going to put a tool in the hand, which becomes the resume builder.
And this shared app contract, if I'm understanding
Yep,
correctly, as the non-technical person, is what allows the host and the app to be decoupled from each other.
yep,
And so you can still use the app without having to use BrainDrive and vice versa.
correct. Because at the end of the day, the app is an MCP server. We're just, and like any other app or MCP server does this, it has a way to talk to it. And that's all we're
But I
establishing
think
it.
this is a really key point is that this makes, you know, the app and the host and the communication more like Lego pieces
Yep,
that you can swap in and out. And that's where this no lock-in comes from.
correct. Because if you, let's say you didn't want to use BrainDrive, you have your own interface that you want to use, and you're looking over here what BrainDrive's doing, and we're building a resume builder, and you're like, I really want to use that. There is no, if you follow the PA architecture, you would automatically have all the default contracts in place. You
Right.
may have to make a change because we have, like, Resume Builder wants a little piece of additional information, like where's your career folder at? So it can read your career memory. It might need certain things like that. But otherwise, it just completely follows the PA architecture, and there's nothing stopping you from going, I'm going to be using the Resume Builder app in my application, even though you didn't do the Resume Builder at all, and you had nothing to do with BrainDrive.
Right. So it's like WordPress but beyond, right?
Yes,
Because like WordPress has this plugin architecture, but you have to be on WordPress to use the plugin
yep,
architecture. This is the same concept of having a WordPress-like plugin architecture for anyone who's a developer and familiar with WordPress, but you don't have to be on WordPress. You don't have to be on BrainDrive to use these plugins.
you could be doing Joomla or Drupal or something else, and you could look at a WordPress plugin and you go, oh, I really want to use that. So you
Right.
could reach out and do, that's what
So this is
BrainDrive.
a really big key in
Yep,
terms of how we're going to build a superior user-owned alternative to a ChatGPT or one of these big tech AI systems is that BrainDrive's not going to build everything, right?
nope,
BrainDrive is just establishing the standards and also absorbing existing standards like MCP that already exist
yep.
so that we can open up and have an open ecosystem to compete with these closed ecosystems.
And we're following the most current, I'll call it version of MCP, where we're doing our MCP servers as stateless. And while on one hand you can say we're just kind of following MCP, but the truth is that stateless is actually what allows us to adhere to the PAA and keeping all your memory existing in one location that you control and own versus spread out between MCP servers. Because I'll use the resume builder as an example. The resume builder MCP never has any of your information stored. The only thing that happens in BrainDrive, it reaches out and says, hey, I want to build a resume and we're going to start an interview process. The resume builder then turns around and says, well, let me see what information you have in career right now. And it hands over the memory and it looks at it and goes, okay, I see you've put a few jobs in here and I'm like already from your conversation. Let's continue the interview from there. But it never stores anything there. It just hands the information back and it goes, okay, I have more information for you to hold on. Or I have a resume for you to put in your career. So now you can use that there. Those kind of things. So we're getting out of that information spread out now to we're always going back to BrainDrive and it being the holder of your information because you own it.
Right. And at the PAA level, another way to say that is we're always going back to the host,
Yep,
right? And any host can still operate like this, and you don't have to be on BrainDrive. So
correct.
BrainDrive is just one implementation of this architecture.
Yeah, so you could take the PAA and if you're a Rust developer, you could code it in Rust. You can follow our own specs if you wanted to, and just where we went React, You fill in the blank and go, I'm doing Rust.
Right.
Those kind of things. It gives you that leverage, or you can use Go or whatever you
Okay.
want.
So the shared app contract
Yep.
establishes how a host and an app are going to speak to each other, right?
And at the PAA level, where it's just the bare minimum, what needs to be achieved for you
Right.
to be
You can add
adherent.
more, but you have to have this as
Yep.
a bare minimum, right? And we're trying to keep that as minimal as possible,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
This is and to give everybody an example on this, this is no different than the federal government and the state. The state always has to do at least the law of the federal government, but they can do
Right.
more.
Well, it's a big difference though because the federal government got away from, yeah. But anyway,
I
we
get,
won't get into
but that's
that.
the philosophy. I wasn't trying to get
It
into
should be a
politics.
minimal federal government, but it's not. All right.
That was the
So,
design of it.
yes, correct. Okay. So now PAA portable app specification. So now we have the communication layer. What are the
Yep.
minimum things that these two things here need to do to speak to each other, right? But
Yes.
to speak to each other in a way where they can also be separate, right? You don't
Yep.
have to, if we build an app, like you don't have to use the other parts, right? You could
Correct.
still use the app if you
Yep.
want to, right?
And because you're using the contract from the PAA, you would always have a bare minimum information be able to float across and tell, okay, hey, I can see this. I know what this is. Show it to the user now. And then
Right.
based on what you do as a developer or a designer goes beyond that, that's where you get into the BrainDrive layer.
Right. Okay. So we have the contract,
Yep.
the app, which would
The
be the
app
resume
itself,
builder in this case, and then we have
the
the
host.
host, which BrainDrive is our implementation of, and then what's the shared registry?
Shared registry is, for lack of better words, a marketplace.
Yeah.
This is where your host would always look to find additional apps.
Right.
And there could
And
be multiple, not just one. You could make your own. You could use ours. You have the freedom to do whatever you want. I know in BrainDrive, we've already envisioned that there'll be a settings panel where you could put in what marketplaces you wish to see.
right,
And it
but
would,
this is a way to keep lock-in out of. So we
yep,
want to keep lock-in out of the communication. We want to keep lock-in out of the app. We want to keep lock-in out of the host, and we want
yep.
to keep lock-in out of the marketplaces, right?
And
Make
for
sure the
real world,
marketplaces remain open.
yeah, and for real world, this is no different than the App Store and Google Play, is where they have locked everybody out. They own the playground, basically, for lack of better words, and we're trying to prevent that from the word go, in the fact of here's the protocol, here's how we do it, here's what we're doing. You can do what you want as
Right.
well. There's nothing stopping you.
Right. And our focus right now is on the first three, but we want to be thinking about this as we go
Yep,
along. So when we're ready and we have apps to distribute, we can do so in a decentralized way
yep,
from the beginning. All right. So then we have what BrainDrive is going to add to this while
yes,
still adhering to this, plus our additional defaults,
yep.
what the BrainDrive host is going to look like. What
Yeah. You did the app first.
I'm sorry, app. Yep.
Yeah.
The app, the host that speaks to it, and our marketplace eventually.
One important thing to specify, the app specification is not at this point any specific app itself, like Resume Builder or a search engine. This is the bare minimum to be on BrainDrive, what is required.
Right.
And that's, we have additional defaults because we like to make it easy for users. So we'll go one step beyond what the PA does, and this is all our apps need to have this. And so that when we get down to an app such as Resume Builder, it would have its own spec of Resume Builder, and it would actually be on top of the app specification because it would have encompass all of the defaults from the app specification. And then what does Resume Builder need to do and be the app that it's doing for the work it's
Right.
actually
So the
conducting?
resume builder spec would have like what a good resume looks
Yep,
like and what is formatting and how does the PDF download work and that type of stuff where the BrainDrive app specification is going to be just what any app, needs
exactly.
to be.
Yep.
And this is how we're going to, you know, make it really easy for us as BrainDrive to build apps with AI
Yes.
and make it really easy for anyone that wants to build an app to do that, whether that be for BrainDrive use or for use in their own system or just to put out there in the marketplace to be used with anything.
Yeah, and that's what takes the little small delay when you're doing the first one, because you have to go through that learning curve of, okay, I need to make this work for any app. I need to make sure that the specification falls in line. And there will always be that moment when the specification is doing something that really doesn't work because you really highlight, you do a very wide paintbrush at that
Right.
point in time. Like for instance, I was talking to Dave earlier, I caught the AI, what we call cheating. And it started, and we had the app Resume Builder, but in BrainDrive, it started putting the cleanup code where it would validate everything. And that's just a very poor design. And we got in a little argument with the AI, but eventually we got it cleaned up and now it works. So it's just a matter of, and once we get that ironed out though, and the specifications start having this articulated when you give instructions to AI to build an app on BrainDrive specifications, all these learning curves will already be there. This is where validation goes. This is how validation works. You won't have to do my whole weekend of working. It'll just go, okay, this is how we're doing this now.
Right.
And you'll be like, thank you, David, every time you do it.
Okay, great. And then how we plan on building this out
Yep,
is in three stages. We're going to build the apps and initial apps that we're
yep,
offering through BrainDrive so we can refine this and make sure we have good specifications for how we're doing this.
yes,
Then other people can build apps. You can put it out there, but if you
yep,
want to be in BrainDrive's marketplace, there will be certain requirements around security, et cetera,
yep,
that you're going to need to meet. But if you don't like those, again, you could start your own marketplace or, there's no restrictions. And then finally, curated and open, a
yeah,
completely open ecosystem. So we're going to do it in those three stages. And we're starting with this resume builder and then job search pack
yep.
to extend the usefulness of our career page as the first thing.
And this really is a really good first app, not in the sense of it's easy, but it encompasses like what a lot of apps will. You'll have back and forth. You'll probably have an interview process. You'll want to save data, store data, and then present data. And you'll need some sophisticated validation to make sure that what you get from the AIs at all times is double checked, so
Right.
that if it doesn't adhere to what you're trying to do, it has a retry mechanic. And this is the advantage of, hey, the fact that BrainDrive's sitting there as MIT, the codes you can look at. Anything I'm doing is sitting there. It's like, how did Dave do this? Okay, let me
Yep.
figure this out. And or you just point your AI to it and say, hey, I'm not a coder, but he is. Go do that.
Yep.
And so that's the advantage of that. For these first apps are done by us, is we can really start paving that pathway for users to come along. And uh, I'm sure based on the second app that I did, there's no reason why this isn't a few sentence. I want to do an app that does this. Follow these instructions that BrainDrive's doing, and you go have lunch, and you come back, and you have an app.
That's awesome. That's going to be amazing. All right, great. Anything else you want to talk about related to that?
Nope. Other than I think we're moving pretty good. My original intent was I wanted to be at some type of functional beta on last Friday, and this week is all about cleaning up. I hate the UX at this point. I've seen it too many times, and it's just not really good for a Katie, because it has way too much on there going on. It's great for me developing, but it's time to get, now this is what Katie's going to pop through, that kind of stuff, and iron down the rest of the validation, and clean that up. And we should be looking really good on Friday.
That's awesome. So I think our goal for last week was to be able to do what we just did and
Yep.
walk through, how we're going to organize this and everything. And I think our goal for the coming week should be hopefully we have a resume app to demo for people. I think we were planning on doing that too, but that was a bridge too far for this week.
Okay, I'll be honest with you. I could show it.
Yeah.
It is there, but it is not what I want to use. Like I said,
Yeah.
this is not Katie proof right now. This is
Right, but
this.
but what's exciting about it is the foundation is there.
Yep.
Now we're talking about polish and UX and front
Yep.
end and that type of stuff, but the foundation is there,
Yep.
which is the hard part.
And yeah, exactly. It works. I'm not. I don't have. Well, I've answered the question of, is this model capable of doing it? It very much is.
Yeah.
There's not even a second choice on this anymore. And it really, like I said, this paves the way for other apps. Just follow this recipe of validation, and JLM 5.2 is a breeze to work with it.
Awesome. All right, great. Anything else you want to talk about this week before we
Uh,
wrap?
nope, I'm good there.
All right, very good. As we talked about at the beginning of the call, our mission here at BrainDrive is to build a superior user-owned alternative to big tech AI systems. We do these calls every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern, live streamed on YouTube, and we post the recordings over on our forums at community.braindrive.ai. So you can join us either place or both to participate, ask questions, share ideas, etc. And with that, we'll see you next week.